Good afternoon or good morning, everybody, and welcome to the InduSoft webinar about conversion tools, Data Highway Plus, and remote I/O connectivity with SoftPLC and InduSoft. First and foremost, I'd like to thank each and every one of you. InduSoft keeps growing, increasing market share, and allows us to keep evolving the product and creating innovation. So thank you very much for your partnership and for helping us to keep pushing the product and the company upwards. My name is Fabio Terezinho. I work with InduSoft, and I'll be the co-host of this webinar with Cindy Hollenbach. She is one of the founders and owners of SoftPLC, and she'll be co-hosting this webinar with me. I'll make a quick introduction about the InduSoft concepts and philosophy about regarding interoperability, conversion of proprietary third-party solutions to InduSoft App Studio, and then Cindy will complement the presentation describing the line of solutions from SoftPLC, both hardware and software, and how combining the Web Studio with the SoftPLC hardware solutions, you can have a very powerful and very flexible and easy-to-use path to integrate different systems in your plant floor, and even a smooth migration path from obsolete infrastructure to a modern and flexible and open infrastructure. At the end of the webinar, we will open for Q&A, so feel free to use the WebEx bar at the top of your monitor. Just move the mouse there and select either the chat box or the Q&A box, and just ask your questions, and by the end of the webinar, both Cindy and myself will go over your questions and answer each one of them. With that, we'll get started. So this is pretty much a summary of the product vision for InduSoft from day one. The vision has not changed in over 20 years. Which is quite consistent with our original value proposition and original approach to the market. But obviously, the technology evolved a lot and changed a lot. So we have evolved the product and adapted the product, keeping backward compatibility to provide a tool that allows you to accomplish the same goal, but leveraging currently available devices, hardware, networks, technologies, and infrastructure. So the bottom line is, from day one, InduSoft was designed as a tool that would allow you to very easily implement data acquisition, data manipulation, and data presentation. In other words, read any data, communicate with external systems to acquire any data through any network, and transform this raw data into meaningful information and present it on virtually any device. Could be a PC, a tablet, a wearable device, a smartwatch, a cell phone, a kiosk, so virtually any kind of devices. The vision was the same 20 years ago, but then we were talking about mostly proprietary networks, PCs running Windows 95, Windows NT, Windows 3.11, not the same type of platforms and type of hardware devices that we support today. So again, the goal is the same. We continue consistent to our vision, but we evolved the product to support new platforms, new technologies. So interoperability, along with portability and mobility, are strong points of InduSoft, and that's where we focus our R&D and the evolution and differentiator of the product in the market. So we keep developing native communication drivers to different protocols. At this point, we support more than 240 different protocols with built-in drivers in the product. And we keep introducing new drivers like MQTT, which is quite important for IoT applications, exchanging data with the cloud, with analytics systems on the cloud. Recently, we released the Siemens TIA driver to exchange data with the TIA portal, Kawasaki driver to exchange data with the Kawasaki robot controller. So we keep evolving and creating new drivers available in the InduSoft App Studio So it's quite easy for you to implement InduSoft and use it as a data concentrator for information from many different devices. And this is in addition to the OPC interface, not only the traditional OPC DA, even OPC XML and OPC.NET, but also OPC UA. InduSoft was probably the first HMI to release an OPC UA client on the market, and we support it to this day. So we do not force you to use OPC. We give it as a native built-in option in the product, in addition to native communication drivers. We also provide APIs, so you can create your own drivers using our driver toolkit. We have a built-in interface to exchange data with databases as well, ERP systems like SAP databases, Microsoft SQL Azure, many different tools to exchange data with other SCADA systems. And from the visualization point of view, you can just publish your application as HTML, literally by clicking one button, and then you can visualize your screens on remote devices with any browser that supports HTML5. iPhones, iPads, Android devices, any device with a browser capable of displaying HTML5 content. And obviously, the technology we have in the product today is completely different from what it was 20 years ago, but we keep evolving the product, keeping 100% of compatibility with applications that you designed in previous versions. So this is a real picture. You can literally copy applications designed 20 years ago to initial versions running on Windows C 1.0, Windows NT, and copy this application to a brand new computer running Windows 10, Windows Server, nowadays even Linux, and run this application with the most current version of InduSoft, keeping 100% of compatibility in the application. So it's that easy. You don't have to convert, recompile, use different tools. You literally just open old applications in the most recent version of the software and run it there. So we keep evolving the product, keeping compatibility with the investment you made to design the applications, the symbols, the algorithms, the libraries, offering new technologies, offering new features, but not forcing you to redo, to throw away all the investment you made in the product. And different products, different companies do not provide such a smooth path to migrate from the old obsolete platforms to the newest ones. So in order to make it easier for customers to migrate from third-party obsolete platforms or cross platforms to InduSoft Studio, we created what we call import wizards. So import wizards are built-in tools in InduSoft Studio, which allows you to convert applications from external systems to InduSoft Studio. Nowadays, we provide 3 import wizards, one for Panel Builder 32 from Rockwell and Bradley, another one for PanelMate from Eaton, Cutler, Hammer, Schneider, and the third one, the most recent one, for FactoryTalk, ME, and SE, and I'll make a quick demonstration about the latest one. So the Panel Builder 32 allows you to convert applications from the Panel Builder 32 software into an InduSoft Studio application. So all the import wizards, they have 2 main steps. One, you use the old tool to export the project to a set of report files, text files, human-readable files. And step number 2, InduSoft Studio reads the information from those files and creates the screens, tags, animations, alarms, communication interface, creates the application in InduSoft Studio with the same settings from the original one. So as you see in the diagram, using Panel Builder 32, you can export the application configuration to a report file, actually, and in InduSoft Studio, you can use the built-in import wizard to convert this report into an InduSoft Studio application. And once the application is converted, then you can run on any platform supported by InduSoft Studio and even leverage features available in our product that were not available in the original application, like the ability to visualize the screens from remote web browsers, add new drivers, OPC, UA, exchange data with databases, and so on and so forth. Once the application is converted, it's just a regular InduSoft application, and you can add it and modify it if necessary. Same concept with PanelMate, just a different software. You can export applications from PanelMate to a set of files, and from InduSoft Web Studio, you can import those files, and InduSoft builds the application in InduSoft Web Studio. And the most recent import wizard was the InduSoft import wizard for FactoryTalk ME SE from Rockwell and Allen Bradley. So same concept. From FactoryTalk, you can export configuration files, and InduSoft then will import those settings to create the InduSoft application. And we import most of the graphical interface, the displays, the screens, objects, animations, commands, expressions, alarms, and communication interface. So obviously the goal here is to minimize drastically the cost when you are migrating solutions from those products to InduSoft Web Studio. And after the application is converted, allow you to very easily leverage and use and take advantage of features and tools and interfaces available in the InduSoft Web Studio that were not available in the other products. So specifically for the FactoryTalk import wizard, I'll show a quick demonstration here on how to export files from FactoryTalk and import them in the InduSoft Web Studio. So this is FactoryTalk Studio, and this is a standard demo application. And as I mentioned before, the import wizard has two main phases. First, you export files from the original software, and then you import them using the InduSoft import wizard. In this particular example, we are going to export displays, which are the screens, the graphical interfaces from FactoryTalk, alarms, and tags. I could export the communication interface as well, but in this particular example, we do not have any communication interface, but I will show in a few minutes how you would import this information in InduSoft. So to export the tags, you go to Tools, Tag Import Export, hit Next, browse here the folder from the projects that you want to export the tags from. So if I go to this project folder, there is this file with the extension MED, which has the tags from the machine edition. And then you select the folder where you want to export the tags to. So in my particular case, I'll create in the desktop a folder called FactoryTalk Export, FT Export. And then I'll create a new folder here called, for instance, tags. And I'll export the tags to a file called tags.csv. You can use any name you want for the folders and for the file name. So all the tags were exported to this CSV file. Then you can right-click on Displays, go to Import Export, select the option to export the files. It shows all the displays, all the screens from the application. Can select the directory where you want to export the screens to. So again, I'll go back to the desktop, to my folder FT Export, and create a new folder there, Displays, and hit Finish to export all the screens to this particular directory. So eventually to show a log with the name of all the screens exported, and it exports one additional file called batch import, which is not the actual screen. It's just a summary with the list of all the exported screens. So that's fine. All the screens were exported to XML files. And finally, I'll right-click on the alarm setup, select Import Export, hit Next, select the folder where I want to export the alarms to. So again, I'll go to the desktop, FT Export, create a new folder called Alarms. Again, could be any name. And export the alarms to this folder. And eventually get a log file saying all the alarm settings were successfully exported. At this point, I don't need FactoryTalk anymore. I already exported all the files I had to export. And here from the standard integrated development environment from InduSoft, I can create a brand new project and then import the application. So I create a new project, give a name here, like Factory Talk Tutorial, for example. Could be any name. Select the resolution. In this case, I want to create application with the original resolution 640 by 480. And it's a brand new blank project. I have no screens, I have no tags, it's completely blank. So in order to start the import process, I can go on Import Wizard from the Home tab on the ribbon, select InduSoft Studio Import Tool for Factory Talk, and hit the Browse button here and point to the exported tags file. In my case, the tags.csv file. Hit the Browse tags on screens and select the exported screen files. In my case, in the Display subfolder, and I will select all the screens except the batch import files, which is just a summary of all the screens exported. And also select the Alarm Browse button, go to the directory where I exported the alarm files. The last step is just to select the Factory Talk application folder, so the actual directory where your Factory Talk application is stored, and we use this information to import the resources, the picture files, bitmaps, JPEGs, PNGs that you used in the application, if any. So here you go to Documents, Public Documents, Factory Talk, ME, and select the project that I want to import pictures from, Objects 5 Screens. That's it. For now, I will not enable drivers because this project does not have communication interface. Hit Next, and the very first thing that the Import Wizard does is to show the list of all the tags that will be imported to InduSoft Studio. You can review the tags, you can even uncheck tags that you do not want to import for whatever reason. And if you hit Finish, it will import all the screens one by one, create the same screens in InduSoft Studio, import the alarm settings, the communication settings, if any, and build an InduSoft Studio application that has the same configuration as the original Factory Talk application. So after everything was exported, you can see here that we have all the tags in InduSoft with the same names as the tag in the demo. We have different screens here. All the screens exported from Factory Talk are available in InduSoft Studio using the objects and animations from InduSoft Studio. And this is a regular application. You can edit this application just like any other regular application. If you make changes in Factory Talk, you can re-import the files back to InduSoft Studio, and you have the option to do not duplicate or duplicate documents with the same name. And if you want to import communication configuration, you just check this checkbox, Import Drivers. And by doing that, then you can go to the configuration menu and add one configuration for each device name. So in Factory Talk, you can use PLC aliases for each PLC for each device. So you just type there the alias that you used in the Factory Talk application and select the driver, the InduSoft driver that implements the same protocol for that PLC. Could be ABCIP for Ethernet IP, EBENI for the ENI gateways, ABKE for the F1 serial, or ABTCP for the F1 over TCP IP. And then in the station field, you write the IP address of the PLC or whatever station supported by the driver syntax. And that's where SoftPLC can become quite useful as well, with the gateways to convert proprietary protocols like DH+ and so on to one of the protocols supported by InduSoft. In Factory Talk, when you go to the startup dialog, you have the option to see what they call the initial graphic, the screen that should be opened when the runtime starts, and then go into InduSoft under Project Viewer and select the same screen on the startup screen fields. So we'll select here low level. So when we start the runtime, we'll automatically open that screen by default, just like in the original project. And there you go. In the runtime, you'll see the same screen from Factory Talk, same functionality, the different push buttons. You can click on the help buttons to see the different help messages, increase tag values, decrease tag values, see bar graphs, meters. You see here in the slider, you can change tag values, change object sizes, change the bar graph colors. So again, the look and feel is pretty much the same as in the original application. And obviously, you can edit the screens after exporting them and leverage InduSoft tools and features to make it look more modern, use the InduSoft buttons, whatever it is. But the original idea is to convert the application to InduSoft with the same look and feel of the original application, and then allow you to edit the application and make it look better if you want or need to, using the native tools from InduSoft. You could also publish those screens, save those screens as HTML, and visualize those screens in a remote web browser, since this is now a regular InduSoft application. You can even edit any object on the screen, static properties, animations, position, visibility, and so on, and modify the screens, add tags. Again, do any kind of configuration that you would do in a real application. So with that, we'll conclude the Factory Talk Import Wizard demo. It's readily available and released in the SoftWeb Studio version 8.0 plus Service Pack 1, as well as the other two import wizards, which have a very similar process to export the project and import in InduSoft. All the import wizards have limitations when converting the project, which are described in their respective documentation, in their user manuals. But for every project where we use those import wizards, and based on the feedback from customers, it saves a very substantial amount of time compared to the number of hours that needed to be invested if you converted the whole project manually. So roughly we could say that we could save 80%, 90% of the time, and then you spend some time making some tweaks and adjustments for the interfaces that are not automatically converted. But again, most screens, animations, commands, objects, pictures, navigation, everything in the graphical interface, tags, alarms, and even communication is converted for you. So with that, I will pass control to Cindy and invite her to start the presentation on SoftPLC solutions, hardware and software, and how they can help you to migrate your existing plant floor, your existing infrastructure, and consolidate it, augmenting different systems and migrating it smoothly to modern platforms with new capabilities. So Cindy, whenever you're ready, welcome and feel free to get started.
Welcome everybody. Appreciate your time today, and wanted to talk first just about who we are. SoftPLC got started in 1983, and we've always done industrial software, supporting Allen Bradley PLCs in the 80s, and then coming out with the current batch of products that we have today. So to start off with, our flagship product is our SoftPLC packs, or programmable automation controllers. And these are a family of different hardware boxes that all run the same firmware that is our SoftPLC technology. So all of the different models have different number of ports and environmental ratings and that sort of thing, but they all use the same software and they all have the same features. And one of the key things is that these are open architecture systems. As a company that doesn't manufacture everything, like we don't make drives or robots or those sort of devices, we find it very important to be able to easily interface to all the other vendor products on the market. And so kind of along the same philosophy of Web Studio, it's a truly open architecture product, and we spend a lot of time making sure that the interoperability is there. And one of the key unique features of the SoftPLC product is that we offer superior migration and upgrade opportunities for Allen Bradley PLC users, and we'll be talking about that today in more detail. One of the things that we found is that there's a great need in the market for protocol converters, or what we call gateways or data managers. And every vendor came out with their own networks and different ways of storing the data, and customers end up with all sorts of equipment, and they have to make it talk to each other. And so that's where the gateways come in. And because SoftPLC as a pack had all these protocols in them, we found that it's a great fit for those type applications. So when we say SoftPLC Gateway, that's the same thing as the SoftPLC pack in terms of the product. It's just a different application or orientation in your brain. So I'm going to talk in detail about the gateway, so I'm going to skip through these bullet points right now and go back to those later. Another product that we announced several years ago is our Tagwell platform. This is a cloud-based remote management platform that allows our gateways and our packs to send data from systems located all over the place up to the cloud for IoT applications. And once the data is up in the cloud, it can be viewed in a web page. It can be sent to another system like a SCADA system, or it can be manipulated with a custom application through an API that we provide for Tagwell. We also offer a number of industrial Ethernet products. We're very strong in the networking area, so we have switches and routers, remote access modems for people to dial in to do remote troubleshooting. And we also offer industrial hardware firewalls and VPNs for remote access securely. We are an InduSoft partner since they got started. We've always worked with InduSoft. So we have our own version of Web Studio, and it's identical to the InduSoft product. And because we work together, there's a really tight integration between our two products. One is that there is a SoftP Ethernet driver in Web Studio to our SoftPLC controllers. And this is the only SCADA driver available that takes advantage of all the features that SoftPLC provides. A lot of the other packages just talk to us as if we were an Allen Bradley PLC or a Modbus device, and they can't access our full set of features and data table and some of the specialty commands that we provide. Another way that we work together with InduSoft is the IoT View product is the embedded Linux runtime will run in our controllers. And so within a SoftPLC controller, you can have an embedded HMI that takes advantage of the features of the InduSoft product. And there's also a Tagwell driver from Web Studio to Tagwell. So you could have a number of remote systems that are using the very efficient way that Tagwell communicates, that our controllers communicate to Tagwell, and then the InduSoft system can, over just a very inexpensive Ethernet connection, get that data just like if it was talking to all those PLCs directly on a local Ethernet. One of the things we've done with Web Studio is, in addition to just selling the software, is we package it in different hardware platforms and sell those as what we call Web Studio HMIs. And so as standard products, we offer a number of models from 7 to 21-inch panel PCs, industrial, hardened equipment with different operating systems, Windows CE, Windows Embedded, or full Windows type options. And we also offer some customized versions for people who want to run in a marine environment or hazardous rated units, washdown environments, that sort of thing. And all of the systems are, as I mentioned, ruggedized, but they're also value priced. So typically, we're going to be able to provide a Web Studio HMI for a fraction of the cost of something from Rockwell or Siemens, with a whole lot more functionality because of the platform software, which is the Web Studio. We've also found a growing market for what are called headless or virtual HMIs, and so we provide these different platforms with the Web Studio license, runtime license on them, but no monitor. And so we've got very low-cost systems. We've got dual monitor systems, HDMI options, and we also have Class 1 Div 2 options. And so when would you want to use this? Maybe you don't need a monitor. You're doing a data-only type application. Maybe it's truck-mounted and you want the monitor separate because it tends to break more often. It's outside and it's getting a lot of vibration. So the actual computer part is very rugged, but the monitor is kind of a throwaway piece that you can replace easily. Maybe you want a wall-mounted monitor, so you don't want a panel PC type of function, or you want multiple monitors. Or maybe the application is that you want to only view it in a browser through the thin client, and you don't need a monitor for the actual runtime license. So there's a lot of applications for this, particularly with remote systems or control room type environments. And because we have a growing market for these separated systems, we also resell monitors for people who want an industrial monitor just as a separate piece. As I mentioned, the SoftPLCs also run the IoT view, and so we don't really sell it as a Web Studio HMI, but it's a HMI/controller, and all of our different platforms support this. So this little guy here is our micro. This is a really nice application where you've got something with a few I/O points, where you want the data viewed only when you show up. Maybe it's a remote lift station or pump station or something, or you want the data to be viewed remotely but not locally. So the other key thing about the Web Studio HMIs is in the PanelView replacements. We've got a number of OEMs and end users that have found both the conversion utility and the hardware combination makes a really nice option for them. So as Fabio went through, you would use the conversion for the application code, and now you've got your Web Studio application that you can put on one of our HMIs. Typically, the cost of the HMI would be a third of what a new PanelView might cost. So it's a very affordable option to get to a modern platform. And we've sized the HMI so that they're pretty much of a drop-in replacement for the hole in the panel. So we have a table on our website that shows for any given PanelView model what the equivalent SoftPLC model would be to fit in that same size hole. And where possible, we want our hole to be a little bit bigger so you don't need gasketing or anything. You can just file or cut the opening a little bit if you need to. So that works great if you're on a platform that Web Studio has a driver for. But some of the older networks, for example, Data Highway Plus, the Web Studio driver that was originally written for Data Highway Plus used an ISA card. You can't get ISA slots in computers anymore, and the card is obsolete. So now what do we do? And that's where our gateways come in. And so we have different models of gateways. I'm primarily going to focus on the smart gateway because that has the most number of ports and protocol options, and it also has the embedded Allen Bradley protocols hardware inside of it. So about some example applications of the gateways. Multi-vendor data transfer is a biggie. Again, we've got customers with products from different companies, and they need to talk to each other. I need my Siemens PLC to talk to my Allen Bradley PLC, or I need to talk from an Allen Bradley PLC to a Schneider drive. All kinds of things like that happen. And the gateways that we provide allow you to mix and match a multitude of protocols. So this picture here is something you actually could do. Profibus, Modbus, Data Highway Plus, Ethernet IP, and IoT all on one box. Another thing that we've mentioned is I want to take a new Web Studio HMI and connect it to my old SLC 504. And so I need to get Data Highway Plus connectivity from my Web Studio, and we do that through the gateway. So we would use the SoftP driver to talk to the gateway, and then the gateway would communicate Data Highway Plus to the SLC 500. Another example would be I've got a PLC like an Allen Bradley PLC, which doesn't speak Modbus, but I need to talk to a meter or a drive or something like that. And so we can put one of our little inexpensive micro gateways and do that sort of a protocol conversion. Similarly, let's say I have truck-mounted equipment that needs to speak CAN. The smart SoftPLC speaks CAN bus, and we can convert that to whatever protocol we need for the other devices that maybe a SCADA system or an IoT system or whatever. A fourth application here would be I've got some old Allen Bradley PLCs or some other brand of PLCs, and I'm not ready to replace them, but I need to add more I/O to the system, and I don't want to buy obsolete I/O. So you can stick the SoftPLC Gateway here. It's going to look like racks to the Allen Bradley PLCs, and then I can add additional I/O of any different vendor protocol. What I'm showing here is the I/O that SoftPLC sells, but it could be something from any other company. And the Smart Gateway can look like up to 64 racks to the Allen Bradley PLC, so it's quite powerful in that scenario. When we put the Smart Gateway in on one of these Allen Bradley networks, the Allen Bradley PLC doesn't know that anything has changed. It's seamless. So you don't need to go into the Allen Bradley PLC, change the configuration, change the ladder logic, nothing. It's seamless that way. And so anything that's hanging on these obsolete networks can be upgraded without touching the PLC. So here's an example of a drive. Let's say you had a 1336 drive on remote I/O. That can be replaced. I'm showing the ABB drive here, but any drive could work there. We can speak to it with Modbus. We could use Ethernet. We could use Profibus, any network that the Gateways provides, and then have the remote I/O connection to the Allen Bradley do that seamless conversion. We've talked about this scenario. This HMI could be any brand. It could be a SCADA system. It doesn't matter. The concept is the same. The SLC 500 doesn't know that the gateway was added into the system. And here we're showing the ability to talk to multiple devices and multiple networks. If I've got a plant with old Allen Bradley PLCs and I'm buying new control logics, I, of course, could take the Ethernet IP and bring it into the Web Studio, but maybe I don't want to do that. I want to use a lower cost Web Studio license with only one driver would be one example. And so that data can go into the gateway, and then the Web Studio can talk to the SoftPLC on a different Ethernet protocol. So in summary, by combining the application conversion from Web Studio or from the PanelView or FactoryTalk to Web Studio with the Smart Gateway, customers who aren't ready to replace their PLC yet or rerun new cable have a great low-cost upgrade path. The cost of the SoftPLC Gateway is going to be less than the original Data Highway interface. It's not real expensive. And so what what you're going to do is reduce the re-engineering time because you're not redoing the HMI application. The installation is minimal because it's a drop-in piece of hardware. And so those together combine to give you reduced downtime, even over putting in an Allen Bradley new system for an Allen Bradley PLC. So it's a really nice option. Some other applications in the same light would be, let's say you had a distributed control system or some other process control system that's using Allen Bradley PLCs that's going to be replaced, but the budget doesn't count for taking all the racks out. And so we've done a number of these upgrades where the new DCS system would speak to the SoftPLC on Ethernet or Profibus or some other network that it supports. And again, we would then communicate to all the racks the data necessary. And so there's no rewiring, there's no running in new network cables, anything like that. If there were other HMIs on the system or drives, anything on that remote I/O network is seamless to the SoftPLC gateway, and so the DCS would be able to communicate to it. On another tangent, we can take the next step. So let's say we put the gateway in and we upgrade the HMI, and now the customer is ready to replace the PLC. The gateway is already an Allen Bradley PLC replacement. We can import the logic from the old Allen Bradley PLC, use the existing I/O, cable to it. Any other HMIs or drives or anything else on the network would not need to be changed, and now we can replace the PLC. So if the Allen Bradley PLC goes bad, if it runs out of memory, Allen Bradley has announced obsolescence of both the PLC 5 and the SLC 500 platforms in the this year and next year. And so those are going to be getting harder to get, and the prices are insane. I was at a customer last week, and the cost of a replacement PLC 580E is $80,000. So putting in a SoftPLC in place of that, you get a more modern controller with more communications, more memory, more speed, and it's not obsolete. And so those of you that might be interested in our PLC upgrades, there is a video on our website that I would recommend you watch that talks about all the things that we could do in light of upgrading Allen Bradley PLCs. So those are the applications. So let's talk about the actual gateway hardware now. As I mentioned, they are multi-protocol gateways, so you can put up to 16 different protocols on one single gateway. And no one's ever done that. I don't think you'd want to do that, but you can. So the actual number of ports that are available for a mix of drivers is going to be hardware specific in the number of options you order, but all the protocols are included, all the drivers are included. We just need to make sure that the equipment is in there. So any serial or Ethernet protocols would be standard. If you want to do Data Highway Plus, Remote I/O, Profibus, DeviceNet, those sort of things require hardware add-ons. We also have a toolkit, and with that toolkit, in C++, either users or SoftPLC development staff can add more protocols or customized protocols for customers for specific devices. I wanted to show you this one application we did just because it's kind of crazy. This was a very large stamping press, and it was being controlled by a PLC 580, which was the biggest PLC 5 Allen Bradley ever made. And it was pretty full. It had 22 I/O racks on it. And because of OSHA requirements, they had to add safety, and so the customer selected to use Siemens PLCs for that. And then in the original application, there was an old Mitsubishi PLC that the PLC 5 was talking to with an Ethernet sidecar that has been obsolete and was failing. And so they decided to put that through the gateway as well. And then they added a little HMI. It was actually a big screen on the wall to display status information. And that was done I forget what software they used, but it was another Modbus TCP link. And then on the same machine, there was this press controller that communicated by a Modbus serial. And so we added that protocol, but then what happened was there was 5 words of data that had to get to the PLC-5 very, very quickly. And with everything going on and the remote I/O protocol, built-in delays, and Modbus being slow, the solution was we worked with the press controller and developed a custom protocol that went in another serial port, and then that data was sent to the PLC-5, and so we looked like about 5 racks of remote I/O to the Allen Bradley PLC. But one of the features of our gateways that you won't find in other gateways is that it can run logic. And in this application, that was important because the PLC-5 only had capacity for 2 more racks. And as I said, we had 5 racks of data. And so we had multiplexing logic in the smart SoftPLC gateway to send the data that needed to get there quickly all the time, but then kind of round robin the 5 racks into the 2 racks of space that we had. So this was a very sophisticated protocol, and there's no other gateway on the market that could do something like this. So the capacity of the gateways is 100 million words of data, and that can be integers, bits, floats, all kinds of different data strings, things like that. So there's not really a limit. If you'll look at other gateway products, you'll find that some of them have 500, 1,000 words of data, and then you have to buy another gateway. We just did an application retrofitting a Siemens DCS for some Allen Bradley PLC-5s, and the competitive gateway they looked at would have required 4 gateways, and we were able to use 1 because we had so many, I think there was 10 PLC-5s that we were getting data to the DCS system, and the other ones just didn't have the capacity. Because the SoftPLC is a controller, all of our drivers were designed for PLC applications, not simple data exchange, and so they're very optimized, very tight in terms of the speed and the error checking and that sort of thing that's designed into each of the drivers. I talked about the logic. The logic's important for other reasons than the multiplexing. Maybe you want to scale the data. Maybe you want to do some totalizing before you send it on so that the amount of data that's passing on one of these older networks is minimized. We did an application where we had some flow computers sending data to a PLC-5, and it couldn't handle the amount of data, and so there was some data concentration done in the gateway. You can do data logging. We have a number of data logging formats that we support, which would be like CSV, or we have a very compact binary format for high-speed data logging. And you can log that data to a number of different locations. If you run the IoT view in the gateway, you also can access the remote database functions of InduSoft for that data handling. You can send email or text messages from the gateway. So you could send out alarms, you could generate reports and send those as email attachments, those sort of functions. All the protocols have very detailed error reporting, communications diagnostics. The logic can detect those errors because those errors are reported to our data table. They can be sent to any attached HMI or SCADA system. They could be sent via text messages. You could send the error messages to another device over the peer-to-peer network like a PLC. Or you can actually, because it's a PLC again, you can add some I/O and set off a siren, or you could flash a light, or any of that sort of thing. There's built-in security in these gateways. They are running an embedded Linux operating system, so there's a lot of security built into that. There's passwords. There's also an option for a firmware firewall within the gateway, so you can limit who can access it or which ports are open to other devices. So TopDoc NextGen is a product of ours, and that is the gateway configuration and diagnostic tool. You connect from TopDoc to the gateway over Ethernet. Most of our gateway customers don't need to use any ladder logic. They just need to set up the drivers. And so that's a very simple process. You go into the configuration and you select the drivers you want to use. And then for some of the drivers, you need to do some additional configuration. And so we have these little editors that pop up that make it very easy to configure the data mapping. This is an example of a Modbus master to Allen Bradley data highway type mapping. So you can see here you've got the Modbus address, and then you've got the Allen Bradley style address. And the editor kind of prompts you through what you need to configure and does some error checking on it. Some of the protocols also provide ladder instructions for diagnostics, as I mentioned. This particular one is a Modbus master enable. You actually can control when the driver runs, and you can turn it off periodically. Like if you have a device that you don't want to talk to all the time, you can actually turn the driver off and do some other things. But most of the instructions are actually for diagnostic interfaces. Where we are using an industrial bus network like DeviceNet, Profibus, CanOpen, that sort of thing, the hardware that we use comes with software to configure the network and do diagnostics on the network. And the cards have a port that your laptop can communicate to, so even though the network card is installed in the PLC, the SoftPLC, you can still access it from your laptop and run the diagnostic software and network configuration software. So in terms of the smart gateway itself, it is a fully enclosed metal enclosure that you can either DIN rail or panel mount. It has compact flash, and we also support a USB port if you want to do data logging to a memory stick. There is a 4-port managed Ethernet switch with 2 interfaces, so you can actually do routing applications. And there are, on the top here, we have 6 serial ports. We have a full 232 port. There's 3 additional 232 ports. This port here is default 485, but we can install additional hardware inside on that port and make it a remote I/O or Data Highway Plus port. And this square port here is actually an RJ11 port, and it ties to internal hardware, which can be a phone modem, another 485 port, remote I/O, Data Highway Plus, or CAN J1939. And because that hardware is an add-on piece, we can also do other serial protocols on customer request. So the Smart doesn't use a battery. There's no maintenance there. It uses a super cap, and it will store the setup information, the real-time clock, for up to a year without battery or without power being applied. There's 63 megabytes of RAM, which is big enough for almost any application. And we do offer an extended temperature option for systems that need to be outside in the weather or in real hot environments. We are working on the next version of the Smart hardware. It is going to be a faster CPU with more memory. We're upping the Ethernet to gigabaud and adding a port, so it'll be a 5-port switch. We're adding 3 USB ports and an option for embedded wireless or Bluetooth interfaces, also cellular embedded interface. the format will look the same, same serial ports, that sort of thing. And then we'll also offer an option for a quad-core CPU, which would allow us to run other applications in addition to the SoftPLC without any degradation on the controller speed and I/O scanning functions. When we talk about the smart hardware as a SoftPLC, there's some other options in terms of I/O. We provide a couple interfaces to our own Tealware I/O. One would be to mount the I/O directly on the front of it. The other is this format, which each one of these ports can go to 3 local racks of I/O, so we can support 12 local racks of I/O. The standard format here without the interface, we can do serial and Ethernet I/O, and then the other options like the Allen Bradley remote I/O with the internal card or CAN functions, that sort of thing. When we need to do a field bus, we have an option to install another card in this little bump out area here, and we support Profibus, DeviceNet, motion interfaces, CAN open. There's about 20 different buses that are supported that way. And we also are developing some high-density I/O boards that would mount right on the front of the Smart for applications that don't need the modular type I/O. So just go back to this application here. We actually could have replaced that PLC5 with the Smart SoftPLC and driven all those 22 I/O racks directly and eliminated the need for all that multiplexing and rigmarole that was going on, but the customer at the time wasn't ready to do that. So the platform is a very great way to migrate Allen Bradley PLCs, and the protocol gateways for the old networks, as we mentioned, to take an old PanelView, convert the application, connect it to the gateway, and hang it attached to the old PLC, and then at some point in the future, replace that PLC. And then the next step would be to replace the I/O. So it's a very nice way to stage the migration at a fraction of the cost of the Allen Bradley Rockwell migration paths. And so I thank you for your time, and we'll take any questions.
Thank you very much, Cindy. So whoever has any questions, feel free to write them on the WebEx bar, on the top of your monitor, or on the Q&A box, and Cindy and I will go through the questions. So one question here is, will there be a link to this presentation for viewer later, and or there will be a downloadable version of this presentation available on the InduSoft website? The answer is absolutely yes. All the InduSoft websites are recorded, and we make them available to download from our website. So I will show quickly here on my display. If you go to InduSoft.com, and if you go here to Support, Video Library, Webinars, all the webinars conducted by InduSoft, in this case co-hosted with SoftPLC, will be available to download on this page. So you can select any webinar and view the video, download the video, and also download the presentations. So make both the InduSoft stack and the SoftPLC stack available to download there, probably in 1 or 2 days. So Cindy, one question for you is, what's the operating system running on the SoftPLC Gateways?
That is the Gatecraft Linux, which is our Linux distribution.
Mm-hmm. Which, as Cindy mentioned, is one of the platforms supported by the Web Studio IoT View runtime, the InduSoft Web Studio or SoftPLC Web Studio runtime for Linux. Very well. So at this point, those were all the questions. Again, Cindy, thank you very much for your time and your presentation. Really appreciate you co-hosting this webinar with us. And I'd like to thank all and each one of you for joining us for this webinar as well. So hope to see you again in the next InduSoft webinar. If you have other questions, feel free to reach out to InduSoft or SoftPLC, and have all a good evening, a good afternoon, or a good day. See you again in the next webinar. Bye-bye.